You just said that democracy can go backward, but how about dictatorship? Is it sustainable? What I'm having in mind is China, especially Xi Jinping after the 19th Party Congress. It seems that it's impeccable. I mean, the power had been concentrated, the economy is going well. Seems China model seems to be working in a sense.
You know, China has contradicted every political science theory of the past 30 years.
Right.
And I was based in China between 2000 and 2006. And at that time was the beginning of the speedy rise of the economy and the rise of the middle class. And the trendy theory at that time was that with the rise of the middle class, China would open up, and that the middle class itself would ask for more pluralistic opinions, for more press freedom, and so on. And this has not happened. Not only it hasn't happened, but as you said, Xi Jinping has concentrated more power, and China has a more tight political system today than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you had some space for civil society. You had lawyers, you had NGOs, you had environment protection groups, and so on. Today, this space for civil society has been reduced to the minimum. So that's a very big mystery because this was not anticipated. My feeling is that China's rise is based on a kind of new type of social contract between the Communist Party and the people, in the sense that China has promised two things. One is to restore the glory of China and the place of China in the world, to make it the Middle Kingdom again. And they have succeeded in doing that. China today is a central power in this world. It's the second economy, probably soon the first one, and that's part of the promise that they've made. And the second one is that we're going to improve your life. You know, you want to become rich, you're going to be rich. You want to have a car, you want to have a home, you want to have the education for your kids. We're going to give you that. On the other side, you don't interfere with public affairs. That's not your business, which has advantages and drawbacks. The advantage is obviously that people's lives have improved in China in the past 20 years. This is undeniable, and it would be stupid to deny it. I have seen it. You know, there's still many poor people and many remote places in China that have not yet access to development, but hundreds of millions of people have been lifted out of poverty, and that's quite an achievement. But having to no say in public affairs, I think is a limitation that I'm not sure China will be able to live with it permanently. You know, one of the weaknesses of the Chinese system, it has advantages, as I said, because the government can plan, can order things, and it's done because it's authoritarian. The drawback is that when you want to, you're the victim of an injustice, or you want to have justice, it doesn't exist because there's no independent body in China. And if your conflict is with someone who is politically connected or with the state, you're finished, you're lost. It's hard everywhere if you are in opposition to the state, for example, on business or administrative, or if you're, I don't know, we have this case at the moment of tens of thousands of people, of migrants being expelled from Beijing. They've destroyed some of the poorer districts of Beijing, and tens of thousands of people are arbitrarily expelled. These people are maybe being treated unfairly, but how can they have their voice heard? They have no say on anything, and no one can defend them publicly. No newspaper, no NGO, no Amnesty International, nothing. And that's the weakness of the system, because you cannot, absolute power can make absolute mistakes. And China has done lots of mistakes in its history. And I think the Chinese system would, that's my personal vision after experiencing it there, but would benefit from having some space for public debate, you know, on issues like the environment. You know, the environment is a big crisis in China. When I was there in the early 2000s, no one would care about the environment, and people who were defending the environment were put in jail and were suppressed. And maybe if there had been more public debate in the early 2000s, they would have avoided the crisis of the big cities today, where people are really suffering from the pollution. So these are issues that would benefit from having public debate, but this public debate is not possible.
Would China become stronger and stronger and more expansionist, how should other countries deal with China? What I have in mind is Taiwan relations with China. I mean, China have a unification for Taiwan, and also in terms of democracy against a dictatorship, somehow democracy seems to be more vulnerable. In all the society, it's politician, it's businessmen, it's usually been more easy to be influenced by the other part. But there's some optimistic saying that maybe Taiwan can influence China in a sense. But you said it in an interview that Taiwan is not in the capacity to influence the political evolution of China. How do you take on that?
You know, in 1997, I was in Hong Kong for the handover.
Right.
And the same question was being asked at that time. Is Hong Kong going to influence China, or is China going to influence Hong Kong? We have the answer now. And the answer is obviously that China's presence in Hong Kong is being felt more strongly, and the liberal atmosphere of Hong Kong has had no influence whatsoever on the mainland. So we know the answer because the balance of power is so unequal. The same applies for Taiwan. I don't think today Taiwan is in the capacity to influence the political system in China. The question for Taiwan is how to survive with such a giant superpower next door that not only is giant but also wants to swallow you. You know, and that's the big question. I think Taiwan is not that important for China as it was in the past, but it would never accept probably a declaration of independence. And I mean, you know, they have this law. They have the nationalistic atmosphere of China would never allow Taiwan to break from this myth that one day it will be reunified with the mainland. So my best bet is the status quo. I think we will continue with its status quo for a long time. What China probably feels, China is looking far ahead. That's the advantage of the Chinese system over most of the world today. My feeling is that they probably hope that their economic power will be attractive enough one day for Taiwan to decide to join whatever hesitation it could have. And because there is an existential economic problem for Taiwan. What's the economic model? You know, we were talking about the economic model of the media, but what's the economic model of Taiwan for the future? It's a big question mark, and I think lots of people here have been telling me that they have questions about those issues. So if Taiwan's big advantage at the moment is obviously its open society and its democratic system. That makes it unique in the Chinese world. And when you know, this is something that is we're talking of an era of soft power, for example. The soft power of Taiwan is strong because of that open society. But if it doesn't have an economic model to sustain its existence, then it will be vulnerable to the power of attraction of China. It's a very unique situation in which Taiwanese have invested a lot on the mainland. There are more than 1 million Taiwanese, I think, living in the mainland. There are big corporations like Foxconn and small businesses are there. And so at the same time, it's a country that wants to swallow you, and you're very proud of being separate from China with its system. And at the same time, you've delegated your economy to them. So it's a weird situation, quite unique in the world. And so I'm definitely quite optimistic in the middle range, because I don't think China will do anything foolish towards Taiwan if there is no change to the status quo. On the long term, it will all depend on Taiwan's capacity to reinvent its economic model.
Finally, for those young people who want to devote themselves to a career of journalism, what would be your recommendation for them?
It's to work hard, because journalism is not can be seen as easy. You just go on a TV platform and you talk. It can be seen as easy. But I think if you want to be a meaningful journalist, if you want to be relevant, you have to work hard and get your specialty, the choice of specialty that you have made, to make it real. Because we need deep journalism. We don't need shallow journalism. There's enough of it on social media. You can meet lots of cats animation, entertainment, and pseudo journalism. We need real journalism, and so if you want to embrace that profession, you need to work very hard and be meaningful, because journalism has a meaning. It has a relevance to the society.